From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, navigating the changes brought on by bringing a baby into the world and during a pandemic. And one personal trainer is helping new moms stay fit. And some IU researchers believe they've made a key discovery in the battle to beat breast cancer. Lindsay.
Topping our lineup, we're looking at whether COVID vaccines could end up being an annual shot. The nation's top infectious disease doctor weighs in on that possibility. The housing market, it is getting more competitive. Some people are trying to get ahead by writing a personal letter to a seller. Why some realtors are warning against this. And some cities are making sure workers keep getting hazard pay by adding new mandates. The legal questions that may keep the requirements from expanding nationwide.
And we are looking downtown Indianapolis, where we've been kind of bouncing back and forth between some rain, some snow, and a little bit of sleet. And now some reports there along I-74 between mile markers 140 and 148 of about 4 accidents across the area. So be careful out there this evening. Could have some slick spots, especially those untreated surfaces. Stepped out in our parking lot earlier, and it's really that sleet that has been coming down. Takes a little bit of time for that to melt, so you just kind of want to be aware of that. We have those temperatures generally at or above the freezing mark. 32 degrees right now in Columbus, but it's 34 downtown. We take you on a little bit of a radar tour, and there's some of that sleet mixing in around Bloomington into Nashville, and then you're kind of back and forth between the rain and snow around Greencastle, and that line extends through Marion County. A little snowy go there along I-65 as we work our way toward the south and east. We get to the north, Noblesville into Anderson and Muncie, dealing with some light to at times some moderate snow. Here's a look at TrueCast 7 o'clock this evening. Still that wintry mix, but it will start to pretty quickly exit the area. I think by about 11 o'clock or midnight tonight, all of central Indiana will be dry. As far as snow potential, most areas should be under an inch there, and you can see those amounts a little bit higher where it stays snow more to the north. Winds are going to be an issue for us, though. We'll have those gusts around 35 miles per hour tonight, and it will stay breezy tomorrow. That also brings down the temperatures into the teens by tomorrow morning, so that standing water, Amanda, could freeze and create some slick conditions.
Be careful out there. And more than 3 million babies were born in 2020. Many women are going through pregnancy, delivery, and postpartum for the first time during a global pandemic. WRTV's Kelsey Anderson shows us how one woman is working to help all mothers navigate the changes.
Whether it's lifting, cardio, or a mixture of both, many of us find mental clarity in working out and staying fit. And Indiana native Sarah Bomar says whether you're pregnant or in postpartum, you don't have to give that up.
She's so just lively, and she's just such a happy baby. Like, it's awesome.
Sarah Bomar is talking about her 6-month-old Oakley.
Yeah, it was definitely strange. Obviously, my first pregnancy during all of this.
As this was her first pregnancy, Bomar noticed there was a lot of misinformation out there on what women can and can't do. So the certified personal trainer got another certification in prenatal and postpartum fitness training while she was pregnant.
I mean, there's this generic, don't lift more than 15 pounds. And I'm like, what if you have a toddler who's 20 pounds? You can't pick them up the entire time you're pregnant.
That's why she created this free pregnancy and postpartum guide for all women, no matter how far along they are in their postpartum journey.
It's never too late to start. I have a lot of women that message me and they're like, well, I'm 5 years postpartum. And I'm like, well, you can still start now. There's not a bad time to start. You don't have to live in a body that doesn't make you feel good just because you had a baby.
She tells me she created this guide to give women a single place to go so they don't have to read or hear contradictory blanket statements about what a woman can and cannot do during and after pregnancy.
You don't have to just sit at home and, just sit on the couch. If you want to, that's fine, but you don't have to.
So that free guide includes workouts you can do, workouts you shouldn't do, and nutrition guides for both pregnancy and postpartum. For more information on that, head over to WRTV.com. Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
And 5,500 Hoosiers get breast cancer every year. It's one of the most dangerous diseases for women and a small population of men. And now researchers at the IU School of Medicine have made a discovery about how breast cancer hides from the immune system. The protein that they identified is called MAL2, and these researchers say its strength is avoiding attacks from the immune system. The data comes from analyzing 1,000 breast cancer patients. Now, their discovery could help improve immunotherapy treatments for cancer patients.
So when we see this result, we are very excited.
We're going to save lives, right? That's that's our goal, and we're going to make a dent of this cancer.
Their research is now being applied to testing various drugs that can help treat cancer. Right now, they are working on 5 promising projects. And more health news. February is American Heart Month, and tomorrow is Wear Red Day to raise awareness about heart disease. So please wear red on Friday to help draw attention to the fact that heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States, responsible for 1 in 3 deaths. But we can do something about that. 80% of cardiac events may be prevented with health lifestyle choices. So let's all do our part and wear red tomorrow and raise awareness about heart disease. Lindsay.
Scientists in the UK are looking into whether it's okay to mix and match COVID vaccines. The vaccines by Moderna and Pfizer each require 2 doses. You're supposed to get 2 of the same kind weeks apart. Guidelines in the U.S. and Britain allow you to mix them if you can't get 2 of the same dose or if it's not known what the first dose was. In the study, participants will receive 1 shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine and a dose from Pfizer. 2 groups are drawing up standards for face masks. ASTM International and the National Personal Protective Technology Laboratory are working on standards to establish minimum design and user instruction, among other things. And this will help people understand which masks actually work. The guidance will be for single-use and reusable masks. Scientists are still piecing together how the coronavirus spread from animals to humans. So far, we know the virus likely originated from a bat and somehow jumped to a pangolin before it made its way to humans. Now, researchers at Ohio State University are taking a closer look at coronavirus transmission and how it's possible for the virus to jump from humans back to animals.
So we're looking at environments like wastewater and stormwater. We're also looking at animals around Ohio, from domestic animals to wildlife.
And we've already seen it happen. Mink in Denmark got infected with coronavirus after coming into contact with humans. The mink got very sick and developed variations that can then jump back to humans. The virus does not need to jump to another species to evolve, but it's more likely to happen.
The evolutionary pressures to change may be different in different hosts. So, if you have a different body temperature, a different physiology, there may be various pressures that cause different types of mutations in the virus.
Researchers are trying to get ahead and find out more about these types of mutations. It can help them understand whether a mutation is more infectious, whether there could be future infections, and whether the existing vaccines can fight against them. Researchers say right now only mink are playing a significant role in human infection. It is possible for regular household pets to infect humans and vice versa, but so far we've seen very low rates of that happening. More in our lineup. Will COVID-19 vaccines end up being like the flu shot, something you need to take every year? The nation's top infectious disease doctor weighs in on that possibility. The rate of COVID-19 vaccines rolling out and into Americans' arms is not only important for saving lives and getting back to normal, but it could also play a role in whether these vaccines become an annual thing like the flu shot.
I think it is conceivable that some version of that will actually occur. We don't know about that. What we would hope to do would be to get the level of infection so low that the circulation of virus will not have the opportunity from season to season or year to year to essentially change.
Talking with the head of the Journal of the American Medical Association, Dr. Anthony Fauci says while it's still too early to say if COVID might be a seasonal issue, there are ways to prevent that. Vaccination, not only in the U.S., but around the world, could mean the difference.
The one wild card in that could be disruptive to that plan is that we need to look upon this globally. Because if you have a lot of replication going on in other countries of the world, that sooner or later, even though you take care of your own country with vaccinations, that mutants could tend to circulate in your society and diminish the protection of the vaccines you're using.
So here's the bottom line. Dr. Fauci says you have to crush the virus globally in order to squash the chance of it mutating season by season. And that's why he says he's happy the United States has rejoined the World Health Organization and COVAX and is helping get the vaccine to underserved countries. Right now, Israel, the UK, and US lead in vaccinations based on population and are far ahead of other first world countries. Underserved nations aren't even registering yet for vaccinations on this world tracker by Oxford. Still ahead in our lineup, we're seeing more people writing personal letters to sellers in this hot housing market we're in right now, but there are concerns over how these letters might lead to discrimination. The advice to both buyers and sellers. As civil rights leaders reflect on the acts of hatred from the 1960s and compare them to the conflict we see today, they're noticing a pattern of change following violent struggle. Elizabeth Ruiz shows us what we can learn from the powerful and painful history of 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama.
This church was organized in 1873 as the first colored church of Birmingham.
Church Administrator Lamar Washington explains the powerful and painful history of 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama.
During the civil rights disturbances and civil rights marches here, the idea was to take the grievances from the African American community to City Hall. And it's only 3 blocks away.
The church was used as a meeting place for protesters, making it a target for hatred.
On the 15th of September, which was on a Sunday, the bomb went off.
1 survived, but 4 were killed.
The church has a gigantic hole in the side of the building. The African American community, not only here in Birmingham, but across the country, has a gigantic hole in his heart.
The tragedy grabbed the attention of the entire world. Civil rights activists say it sparked national leaders to make a change, leading to the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
I think that was one of those defining moments for the civil rights movement because it galvanized the nation. It made the nation pay attention, and it actually made the world pay attention. And people were thinking, how horrible was that?
Dr. Paulette Patterson-Dilworth is the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. She grew up just south of Birmingham in Selma and was 13 at the time of the bombing.
For us, the question was always whether or not our church was going to be next.
She says what was happening back in the 1960s is not too different from what we're seeing today.
Think of it this way. There have been other black men killed since George Floyd, and those killings have been just as questionable. But have they been broadcast over the news as much as that incident? No. And the idea is that there's an expectation that these things quiet down and we go back to our normal way of existing or coexisting or attempting to.
Dr. Dilworth says the answer to freedom, equality, and liberty for all people isn't simple, but it can start with education and each person striving to be inclusive in their own lives and careers.
We need to stop making the existence of people's humanity a political issue.
In Birmingham, Alabama, with photojournalist Drew Snadeke, I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
President's Day is coming up soon, which means many kids won't have school that day, but the Children's Museum of Indianapolis can help you keep the family busy on February 15th. They are offering free admission on Monday the 15th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Due to COVID restrictions, capacity will be significantly reduced, so you need to reserve your free tickets online at www.childrensmuseum.org. Kyle.
Looking north across downtown Indianapolis, see a little bit of some bright sky there on the horizon, kind of between waves of precipitation in the downtown area, but we will see more of it moving through. Let's take you now to the northwest side. Earlier today, Jason Scheuer snapping this video for us. The snow from the previous system not completely gone on the roads, but now you can, or on the grass, but now you can see there on the roads getting that fresh coating of snow out there. So again, watch out for some slick conditions. We've got temperatures at 34 right now in Indy, actually 38 degrees for you in the Lafayette area and 36 in Bloomington, courtesy of that south breeze that's bringing in those wet conditions. And there's a look you can kind of see here near I-74 and 65, where we've been seeing that rain snow line. A little more snow for you, and watch out for a little more in the way of some accumulation in the Muncie and Anderson areas. But again, I still think it's going to be under an inch of snowfall for you. Once we get toward about 9 o'clock, we'll see this really in the eastern third of central Indiana. And then by 11 o'clock or midnight, just cloudy skies. Windy conditions will continue. And look at what happens to temperatures by tomorrow morning. Upper teens to around 20 degrees, even down to around 15 degrees in Kokomo. So any of that standing water, especially untreated areas, could become a little more slick as we go into tomorrow morning. Here's a look at that wind gust forecast, and they are going to stay with us. Tomorrow they turn out of the west, but still around 30-mile-per-hour gusts as we go throughout the day. So that's going to be driving down those wind chill numbers with actual readings that will be in the 20s to around 32 degrees here as we go into the afternoon, and breezy conditions there for you on Friday. That 7-day planning forecast shows that we will have a system that brings a chance for some snow showers, maybe 2-3 inches of accumulation the way it looks right now Saturday night into Sunday morning. A few more shots at some snow and some cold air lingering through much of next week.
McKinsey & Company has reached a $573 million multi-state settlement. The lawsuit was over the company's role in working for opioid companies by helping them promote their drugs. The money will be put toward paying for treatment and rehabilitation programs. The spring may be another competitive season for home buyers. Nationwide, January had record low inventory of homes, which pushed prices higher and caused homes to sell more quickly, according to Realtor.com. Over the course of a year, we've seen a decline of 23% in new home listings, and median listing prices have gone up more than 15% since that time. Well, if you've ever bought a home, perhaps you've received or maybe even written a letter expressing your love of the home to the seller, like a real estate love letter. In recent months, these letters have been increasingly scrutinized as a potential violation of fair housing laws meant to prevent discrimination. Dan Grossman has the warning that realtors want you to hear.
Dear seller, my name is Dan. I'm unmarried, value relationships with my neighbors, and absolutely love the fabric of your neighborhood.
It's a competitive market, so the use of love letters have really increased a lot lately.
I'm thinking of starting a family of my own. Your kids, your home's history, knowing this is where they got their start, it seems like a perfect fit and made your home speak to me.
If a seller is relying on certain information, they could potentially discriminate.
I've included a photo of myself so you know your home would be going to a loving resident that can't wait to get a similar start to yours. Warmest regards, Dan.
Almost from the outset, people express concern about them.
Brian Green is the Vice President of Policy Advocacy with the National Association of Realtors.
It's unfortunate.
A.K. Riley is a realtor herself. Ever since they both got into real estate, they've dealt with the precarious situation of having buyers writing letters like those.
They're kind of desperate to find what else can we do to get our offer accepted for this house that we love.
According to some, love letters pose potential violations of the Fair Housing Act as they could promote discrimination based on the information disclosed. Last year, the National Association of Realtors denounced them, and within the last 2 months, California's Association of Realtors became the latest state group to denounce them as well.
What the National Association of Realtors doesn't want to see is an offer being chosen, a buyer being chosen because of their familial status or their race or their sexual orientation.
If that does happen, even innocently, it could result in a civil lawsuit, so the association recommends staying away from them altogether.
There are just risks involved, and again, at the end of the day, the actual facts are going to matter.
So if you're on the market for a new home, take this into consideration, as even the most innocent of intentions might not end happily ever after.
It's complicated. Real estate is hard right now, and it's hard for everybody.
I'm Dan Grossman.
Finally, in our lineup, a growing number of cities are now requiring large grocery chains to give their workers hazard pay again. The pressure from the president that could help the mandate expand. Nationally, fewer people claimed unemployment benefits last week. Claims fell to 779,000. That's a total of 17.8 million people who are still on unemployment. These numbers are still a historic high. Even during the Great Recession, applications for unemployment never topped 700,000. Grocery store workers across the country aren't getting the hazard pay they received from their employers at the beginning of the pandemic anymore, but now a growing number of cities are starting to require large grocery chains give that extra pay again. This week, Seattle became the latest city to have that mandate go into effect. Large grocery stores there have to pay workers in the city an additional $4 an hour. Long Beach, California also recently added this mandate, and other cities across California are talking about doing this too.
The way these hazard pay mandates were written, they really target just a handful of very profitable companies that have earned a lot of extra income during the pandemic.
Molly Kinder with the nonprofit Brookings Institution has been researching policies for frontline workers during the pandemic. She says there are still legal questions with these new mandates. One is the legal grounds for singling out some workers over others. Another is, are these mandates legal with the collective bargaining agreements between grocery stores and unions representing workers? She says how these issues get resolved will influence how much these mandates catch on across the country. Now, there have been differing responses in Long Beach so far. Trader Joe's decided to temporarily raise the pay of all of its workers across the country, and Kroger will be closing 2 of its stores in the Long Beach area.
It's pretty clear that Kroger has some means to be able to pay some hazard pay. The exact amount, that can be up to debate about what's the right level that they can afford. But I think it's pretty clear from their earnings statements alone that Kroger has extra profit now because of the pandemic that it could be spending on workers.
In a statement, Kroger says in part the mandate oversteps the traditional bargaining process and applies to some, but not all grocery workers in the city. As far as any action on hazard pay on a federal level, the Biden administration talks about it in the latest stimulus proposal, but it doesn't mandate it, just calls out large grocery and retail companies saying that workers should receive it. Privacy experts say millions of images collected online by photo sharing apps are fueling artificially intelligent surveillance. Is your photo being used without your knowledge? Tomorrow, we'll show you how to check.
That latest round of precipitation moving through this evening, but as we head into tonight, that will wind down. Then comes in some colder air, temperatures in the teens by tomorrow morning, just 32 with a cold west wind for that afternoon high. And look at that, by Sunday, our high only in the teens there. And it looks like we'll stay in the upper teens to 20s for those temperatures as we go through much of next week. Another chance for a few snow showers Monday and Tuesday. Thanks for joining us at 5:30.